those dumb dumps.
Yeah.
It's for AE, get approved to build a house.
Oh, thanks, Tom.
It's like a parade. Well, you don't have to catch it.
Can I write on this?
And I don't think it's gonna stick.
Oh.
Right on the paper.
Okay, wait a minute. But it goes to A&E. For the
No, it
grant.
goes into,
Well, but I mean, but it's a fee that we collect,
Yeah.
150, what's after that?
These would be a garage and addition.
Doctor?
How much?
Well,
Thank you, yeah.
Additions or garage.
How much?
You guys have one name, fill that with.
Hi, Lois.
Sure, you will.
And
What
then
would
the
another,
rest.
another improvement be like a dock, things like that?
No,
You want a water grant?
Thank you.
They want to clear that.
yeah. But that was.
How
Yeah,
much?
I only got half of this left, depending on how fast this goes. If I don't use it, I'll put it back. Hey, Jeff.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good.
That $5 is probably okay.
Hey, Joe, do you know when the,
Once
fast
we go
internet's supposed to get to the fire station?
They already run all cables. I assume it's there.
All of them.
Yeah, 'cause we're running everything inside. It's there to the building. We have called cable inside. They were out the
There's not
hills,
much
still
wiggle
in
room there.
a few weeks ago.
Because they were supposed to
David
run it,
Denver for,
I think down
$3.
Heritage Drive
That's
there.
almost a
and-
hassle to collect.
Yeah, it's down to the fire. It should be down. We went right down in front of your
Yeah,
truck.
there are people that use a lot of them.
Just contact them? Okay. Because they signed up for it, they just haven't heard
Because they
anything.
found out if they buy a punch card and they don't use it, then they throw that away.
Sunshine here.
Alright, what you been once on?
I said, we got some sunshine.
I know, how about
I
that?
mean, they'll let them in once until after buying it.
We do notaries, okay, good. We do that practically. Only rent the
We do.
clubhouse.
It's just a piece of paper.
But we do it.
Mhm. I didn't see any other place we could go better than that one. That would help. Over.
What is, what's a watercraft operational season license?
Yeah. And then
Let's say like here's one on my property, and I want to move down my boat. You can take the test and get a license to drive my boat.
But you gotta be with,
No, that's for him to drive my boat. Current siblings, current in-laws,
oh,
outlaws.
now I remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember that whole thing. And I had a friend that I wanted to do it, and it didn't qualify because they weren't in that group. I can remember.
Son of a guns.
all cameras are too fast.
I think there's some.
That way there's no GPS on my truck. I drive fast.
Undetected.
Ken, what do we got? Maybe
No proof.
And when I had
10 or 12
so I
of
take
the
it
low
off,
cost
Sewers around the house.
boat slips. It's just the ones that are out there,
For the, this,
you know, like the ones there by the marina that get whacked around by waves and all that.
Oh, 19.
Lower cost slips,
Yeah.
we put about, what, 19?
Oh, that
well,
many.
17, because we have to.
right.
Oh, yeah, for the security boats.
We had one for the maintenance pontoon, but we gave that up to rent, and we just keep it parked over by Shannon's barge, because it's ugly anyway. It's a Cadillac.
It's a weird thing to see primitive camping. And then it says dash members, and I can think of some.
Primitive dash members.
No, this is it, this is part of the list that you gotta give to Ruth. You gotta identify those people. But of course, they won't have their email addresses, because they are,
That's tent campers.
oh, are there, do we have many of those?
They do down there, but it's mostly young people.
Do you know Purvises lived there for a while?
Well,
Before they built their house, for several years, a couple
several of
years.
them did that.
Yeah.
Carols and several people done that.
You know the Disney house, that like it's up by where Jim lives, you know, the guy that plays the trumpet. And it's got a big slide coming down, and it looks like something you would see it, okay?
I know, yep, 90
That
bucks
was
potentially.
Purvise's property.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that was a good one,
Yeah, no, that was a good purchase.
yeah.
Yeah, I think every time my hands were sweating perfect.
Consider it ought to raise these. 150 for your building. Addition, 100. Yeah, they're improvements alone.
It is, and I'm not doing it well. What do you think about that? To work.
Well, I'd say read everything. We got,
At 7 o'clock, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Today is the August 26th, 2019 HLPOA operations meeting. First item on the agenda are boat, slip, and campground fees. This board has had several discussions, and with the passing of the marina proposal at the last board meeting, we need to talk about now what we're going to do as far as fees that are going to be raised for the purpose of helping pay for that marina. So we want to have a discussion about that tonight, guys, and start getting some brainstorming down, because I would expect that at the September meeting, we would probably be prepared to make a motion now that we know we're going forward with the marina. So anybody want to start the discussion, have any ideas? Obviously, one of the main things that the membership is concerned about is we're stating that our intention is to have this fee valid for 4 years and then have it taken back down, and there's been a lot of discussions about ways that we might be able to do that. So let's just have a discussion around the table, see who has ideas around that. Anybody? Paul?
as far as 4 years go, I think I've been doing a lot of thinking about that. It seems to me that I believe it should apply to the boats. If we're gonna raise the fees of the campgrounds and raise the fees of the slips, I think we need to leave them raised. There's waiting lists for both. They're very reasonable fees for both. And that's just my input. I think if we're gonna raise those fees, we'll leave them after 4 years. That would, in effect, I think, give another board more leverage to come back on the boat fees as we promised. Not promised, but as we are going to impress on the new boards.
So you're saying to leave the fees as they are?
No, raise the fees for the campgrounds, raise the fees for the slips, raise the fees for the boats. In 4 years, bring the boat fees back down, leave the rest up where they are.
Okay.
Just, does anybody have a number of how many campgrounds were, campground?
70, what is it?
75,
Yeah.
and there's 10 left over, there's 10 open.
There's what?
10 that are not being rented right
But the total is
now.
75
75, yes, sir.
total. And slips?
17 at 480, 16 at 650,
How many at 650?
16.
Okay, you're going a little too fast for me. Start again, please.
17 at the 480 price, 16 at the 650 price. I'm gonna do math real quick, 59.72 at the 325 price.
$72?
Yes, sir. That's what, that sound about right. Give her-
Total was 72 or 72?
72 at 325.
72 at 325.
I mean, is that,
Seems like a lot, is that
I don't, does the office agree with that?
I hope so, because she gave it to me about a week ago.
That's 105 slips altogether.
That's pretty darn close.
Yeah, okay,
Off my memory, that's real close.
okay.
When was the last time we raised the campground or the slips? Does anybody know?
The campground,
17, maybe?
Not to be exact, I think it's been
It was Brad's last year on board.
correct.
And that was campground.
Oh, the campground.
Is that what you said?
I think,
Well, we did it, it was 17 or 16.
in 16,
It
the
was
campground
16.
started charging for the electrical. But I don't know if the fees went up.
How
They
quick
just started charging.
find that out.
Just so everybody knows what's on the table for the campgrounds, the increase gets us $2,250.
How much is the increase? Can we,
$30.
okay.
And on the slips,
And that's over 4 years, it's gonna get us that
no,
2,000.
that's a year.
$2,000 a year for the $30 increase, okay?
Yeah, we're looking at two things, Chris. One of them is how much are we getting, but the other one, I thought we were talking about what if we keep it in place. And I'm saying that it's not a whole lot of money, is what I'm saying. The slips get us $3,150. So in aggregate, by keeping them up, all right, said a different way, we get $5,400 each year for 4 years for those two things. And then we would continue to get that if Paul's idea goes forward, and we would stop getting that if not. That is not the aggregate fee, that's just the increase.
So what's the slip increase again? I'm sorry.
30, it's okay, it's 30.
30 for campground, 30 for slips.
Mm-hmm.
And the suggested boat,
60,
motorized.
How much? 60.
60. That is significant. That's like, I weighted it for some fall off and it's like 54,000.
A year?
Mm-hmm. The increases. And then I aggregated them all together, presuming some slippage, and that's where that $59,000 number comes from.
No, I just, it sounds like, it was so long ago that nobody remembers how much we raised the campground for, or how much we would raise the slip for. I would sort of agree with Paul, just to leave those two objects in place as we go forward.
Although,
I guess the only thing I could anticipate is a remark saying, well, you're doing those two, you'll probably do the boats, but we're gonna do everything in our power to try to have the boats go back to what they exist today in 4 years.
Although all that is just suggestions for people on the board in 4 years, so.
Mhm.
You're right.
I mean, there's nothing we can do about it unless we're here in 4 years, so we should probably talk about the stuff that's gonna happen instead of
Mhm.
what could happen.
If it's, I'll just throw this out there, if it's passed by the board to hold at a certain price, can you vote for to hold it for a certain price? And just,
Like make a contract almost?
yeah, almost to say that you all vote that it'll go up to a certain amount until the year 2023. And then it's documented in the minutes.
But how's the 2023 board gonna know to go back in the minutes and check that?
Well,
Then-
Imagine the boat owners would tell them.
That was,
Yeah, that's true.
that was something that
Should.
on our, what's this thing here called, our annual, and it's in, it's produced every year. Just right here where it says motorized boat, you could simply put, the new price would be what,
310.
310, and then in parentheses, for the next 3 years,
Until-
reverts back
Till
to,
2023. yeah.
reverts back in the year 2023 to 250. You just put that in small parentheses on that line, and it gets repeated every year we print this,
Yeah,
and then we know in the year 2023, it goes back.
What was
No,
Paul's idea? I'm
I
sorry.
don't think you can constrain, I agree with you, I don't think we can constrain the future board though.
But if nothing else, I think, it's,
They
It's
would
the
have to-
spirit.
They would
It's the
have to
spirit.
vote.
They have to vote.
To change it.
yeah, I think as Ken suggested, I
Yeah.
think that would be,
I mean, if part of our, if our motion includes that we will record the fees for the boats for 4 years, and they will automatically go down in the 5th year,
And you
however
need
it
a
works
vote.
out,
Yeah,
unless the new board votes them to stay. We don't even have to say
no,
that.
don't even say
It
that.
just
Just
automatically
say-
goes down.
Yeah,
And then it's up to the new board to say, hey, everybody's satisfied with it now, whatever they would come up with, I have no idea, but.
yeah.
They can always override it if they wanted to.
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's a positive documented step.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, then it's in front of everybody's eyes,
Yep.
and that this gets made every year, and it's in front of the community's eyes that this is gonna get rolled. It's a commitment to the board, from the board.
What
that
what
it
was
is-
your wording again? Can I just have that, do you remember?
Reverts back to 250,
2019 levels.
reverts back to 250 in 2023, or whatever year.
Guess we have a couple of weeks here, we could look at some costs at other lakes. And I don't know if that's something we need to do. I mean, we've got it figured out for what we're going to expend money for. So regardless of what other people are paying, I mean, I think if you look at the other lakes, I know the big lakes in Indianapolis are just so far beyond
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
It's incredible, but I'm sure, if we looked at Lemon or Hidden Valley or, other lakes that were comparable in size and maybe comparable in being private or semi-private, Trafalgar area, the Sweetwater Lake.
Sweetwater.
I don't know.
Well, we
Is that
also,
important?
we also have to
Anybody?
be careful, because what I feel is important is, in all of those marina presentations and all the discussions that we had, both in the board meetings and in the marina presentations, we said the fees are there for 4 years. And we want to take them back down after that, because the whole intent is to pay for the marina. So we already said that several times. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't change our mind, I get that, but you gotta be really
Well, the other
conscious
board
that.
could, the other board could, but I did say that a lot of times.
Yeah. To me, I mean, that's a verbal commitment. Now, it's not voted on. We didn't make a motion. We didn't do any of that, but I urge you guys to consider that as well, that we told the community one thing when we were still presenting it. It wasn't formal
That's
yet.
fair.
It wasn't approved, but
I think that's a
we made that.
great point.
Yeah, so just think about it. I mean, it's a nice thought to look at opportunities to continue to have money generated for this community.
I brought that up merely because I think that the rates that we're charging for both the slips and the campgrounds are just very reasonable. but I think your point is well taken by me. And I would have to agree, just because I didn't think of that. I thought of the boat fees because I thought that was the emphasis. However, we didn't really segregate the.
Yeah, if we said those three fees,
Right,
if we
that's
put
fine.
together, and there may be other opportunities in the future, where they can come off of other fees or whatever, but we're not voting on anything tonight, we're just having more discussion before. the next
So,
board meeting.
on the slip and the campground fees, who sets those? Do we actually set them, or does Ken set them, or?
We set them.
We set them.
Board does.
Yeah.
So,
So, in 4 years and 1 day, that next board would come in and say, we're raising each
Mhm.
thing $100, boom, boom,
Yep.
boom,
They
they
did.
voted in,
Yep.
that's
Mhm.
it, right?
That's the authority of the board, that's the way
Right.
it's designed, for good or the bad, you know, it's.
How big of a
that's the-
wait list is there for the campground? Anybody? Is
I
there
didn't know
a
there
wait
was.
list?
It was-
There's
They
a
had
there's
10
10.
They were short 10 spots this year, I think.
Like 10 openings?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
But Slips has always got, or generally has a wait list.
Has been ever since I've been.
Did we ever
Yes.
find out, is there a real wait list on slips, or is there a list of people who want to change?
Swap.
To swap?
No, there's a real list on waiting and moving.
What is the real list on waiting? Yes, no, yes, waiting.
Just waiting.
Just waiting.
In other words, they don't have,
It's
they
not
don't want
segregated,
to flip
they're-
flop, et cetera.
It's not segregated, it's all in line as to when they ask.
You know what the number
So it's
is?
in order, it's approximately 65.
a lot of people.
So going up $30 on a, I mean, I'm one of the slip people, I have my own, I have one of the slips. I'm like, I would gladly
Tie
pay
up.
$30 more to make sure I get to keep it.
You're a tie-up.
For the, well, whatever, tie.
Okay.
So I wouldn't go up at all?
You would go up.
Well, it
You're-
says slip,
you're just a
now
tie-up.
let's think about this here.
I'm a
But
tie-up too.
slot, tie up, slip, whatever, a place for me to put the pontoon boat. I mean, do we think that, I mean, not that I wanna cost myself more money, but I mean, if we have a wait list of 65 people that either wanna move or get on, say half of it, say 50% wanna move, 50% want it. If you had 25 more people that want slips, how many people would get off the list, or who would pay more to get, you know what I mean? Like, people that have a slip now, do you think they would just continue to pay even if they we raised it 50, 60?
That's the trick, I don't think there's any way for us to be able to tell, we could speculate all we want, there's a lot of things that could happen, may not happen, but.
This is
again,
elasticity of demand.
Oh, I mean, I'm thinking about like, and this is gonna sound weird the other way, but it's like, raising the boat fee doesn't hurt my feelings either, because then it might make the lake a little less crowded. It may take some people that decide, nah, I don't really wanna get a sticker.
That'd be rough on us if that happened.
I understand, I don't want less people to use the lake, I'm
Yeah.
just saying that it might take that occasional person that comes out 3 or 4 times a year that maybe isn't such a great.
That's a risk.
That's a risk. And I waited it,
You know.
but only a little.
No.
I waited 70 boats would not renew.
Out of what, the 900 or whatever it
In my
was.
mind, that's what I did.
1,025.
And it wasn't even a
Right,
dart,
it'll be up to
it was
that
just a
number, yeah.
total guess.
Right.
I'll be up to that.
So,
One of the things that, as far as fees goes, that some folks at the campground talked about, and other folks around the lake as well, is somebody who stands at the campground, they got a campground slip, they've got a boat slip, and they've got a boat. And they're saying, hey, I'm gonna get hit 3 times. And they don't feel like, do we do it where you're gonna pay, we're gonna raise all the fees, but you only gotta pay one of them, the most expensive. So if you got a campground, if you got a slip, or if you got a campground, you pay the campground fee. If you've got a boat slip and a boat, can't imagine why you'd have a boat slip and not a boat. There are a few, I think.
Some people have more than one lot, some people have more than one boat.
That's true.
I mean, you pay to play.
That's right.
The more you got, the more you pay. And that's a good point for the total, but on the other hand, it's, I don't have a pontoon boat because I don't want to pay the fee. I mean,
Yeah, people are gonna have to make
People pay to
decisions,
play.
right? And those decisions are gonna
That's what
impact
happens
the
at the
amount
lake.
of money that we're counting on. to
That's
help
why I
with the
stopped putting my
marine.
ski boat out here, because I have the pontoon already, and having the trailer one back and forth all the time is just,
Yep.
Well, that's a mess.
having to do that when I have the pontoon, and I can just walk out to it at the tie-up, not the slip. But I was the same way, so I was one of the people that slowly backed away from that, just because I was basically making a $250 donation.
Yeah,
But,
that's fair.
is there a way to do language that would stick for the 4 years? I mean, is there a way to
I
make a
think Ken's-
motion that would
I
stick?
think Ken's idea was the way to go, because it's in writing every single year. Those books are available for every member.
That's true.
It's a reminder to every board member, every time they look at the book as well. I mean, and then at some point, the office, when they print the 2023 book, they're gonna, hey, guys, remember, these are only through 2023, and hopefully they go back down after that.
If I don't remember, I'll have a note. I have a sticky note right there.
Well, next year's book the starting point of next year's book is the current book, right? So that's always gonna be in, so that'll
There'll be
in
about
my
three,
print till-
3,000 people on it.
When will it-
Yeah, for sure.
When will is it predicted to go down? Because like
It-
January 1st meeting or December,
It'll happen
It only takes us a year.
as we begin the 5th season after this. Because your seasons are in
Okay,
2 years, across 2 years.
yeah.
So we have 2021, 21-22, 22-23, 23-24, and then in the 24-25 season is when it'll go down.
So we need to make sure when we make the motion that we use the right year.
Yeah, in
Because we've been
fact,
saying 2023 for the last 10
I
minutes.
just, yeah, I just do
I'm
that.
making notes about this right now, so we'll.
Yeah, so we have to be very careful with how we word the motion, for sure. And I think if we do decide to go the route of making sure it's in the book, that we include that in the motion as well.
Just as a warning to everybody, just so you know, I may not have this right, but I believe half of our revenue comes from fees. And if we get in trouble and we got our hands tied, it is impossible to raise our assessments. Just so everybody knows.
Was there any reason why we added the campground fee in there? Because I mean,
Money.
I know, but they're not on the water, so if we're putting this as a tax for people, on the- not that I want to screw this all up, we're in the 11th hour, but.
Oh, we got a lot of people that don't live on the water here.
Right, but I'm saying if you're adding a marina that is a water-bound activity or a water activity, and we're assessing fees against the people that would most likely use it the most.
I don't think we're doing it that, I think what we're doing is, we only have X number of fees that we can look at.
Correct.
And raise, right?
Okay.
And those are the ones.
I got
At the
you.
end
No, I
of the
just,
day.
I just.
Pool fees
Yeah,
are for people,
it's-
I mean, they buy their pool pass and they.
Right, that's what I'm saying,
Pool.
like, there are other fees that are out there that didn't change, why
I
did
don't
we
think
pick
there's-
the campground?
What other fees do we have?
Oh,
That's about
yeah.
it.
I'm just-
We're discussing that list too. Well, that'll be in the next discussion, like, what do we charge for A&E fees? You know, we charge $50 for A&E to do a new residence. That's not very much. So just something to think about.
What about like a 10% across the board?
Well, you know, I would think more than that myself. but
Well, just.
I would think
just a
150
starting
for
point.
that, and then, because this is people moving into our community, putting in new, and they got all that paperwork, and A&E does that. But
I was
hey,
just thinking of, we picked these three out because they're the easiest three to change. I don't know anybody at the campground, so I'm not trying to defend anybody I mean, I've literally, the first time I went there is when we went to look at the new swing set stuff that we were gonna put in. That's the first time I'd ever set foot there. I've lived here for 4 years. I mean, I didn't have a reason to go down there. I have a house. I don't need a secondary house.
it was arbitrary that I chose
Yeah.
those three, completely arbitrary.
I love that, I just didn't know if there was other fees that would make sense to add to, that could help in
I think
that
it's-
arena. Because like I said, if we're focusing on water activities, and the marina being, that's where the people are gonna pay the most assessment. I just thought the campground was just kind of like oh, we can get some money from the campground people.
I really don't think that marina is gonna be just water-based stuff, because it's gonna be like a gathering place, so it may not necessarily just be water, so I think if we can maybe charge some of the other stuff and bring down maybe the boat fee or any of the other fees, it may lighten the load of, you know, just those three and maybe
That's all.
share it across.
I'm only saying that if we're trying to,
It's the only fee, though, that has 900 people that are paying it.
the boat fee? Right,
That's the biggie.
I know. Well, and I don't think that's a problem. I think that's fine. Like, I
Well,
think,
it's your friend to your right.
I don't.
Express concerns about it. And I got concerns about it too, because there are people that really, this, not everybody's got
Yeah.
what we have to pay for it, so.
Where did you get the, I guess, the numbers of how much you were gonna raise it?
Began with objectives and then backed into it. I saw what we had in
Yeah.
terms of available funds, and then I took, like, aggregated all the slips, all the boats, and all the campgrounds, and got to a per type thing to get us. So it was not scientific.
Okay, I was just curious how, okay.
Like,
Why are you so against it? Just curious.
There are, just for everybody's reference, just so I understand it, there are 3 type of campground fees. One for permanent camping, one for permanent camping after July 4th, and one for transient camping. My assumption is all of those will be increased, correct?
let me look at it just a second. My transient's $35 a
That's
day, right?
nightly.
A nightly.
That's nightly stays is 35.
You wanna bump that a little bit?
No, I'm just saying.
We don't do a lot of it, do we?
If we're doing campground, then we should be uniform with campground.
We could name it a specific one, the permanent, whatever the one is, the whole season or whatever.
The
But I'm saying we should be
is
uniform. So if we're doing
690
campground, we
for
should do permanent campground,
So 720, yeah.
So
campground after July 4th,
5%?
transient camping.
I said, yeah,
Right, but
balance.
transient camping is
So
paid by the
raise
night,
everything
so I
else
mean, you can't raise a $35 rate to
Oh.
$65. I guess you could, but.
I would
You
do
wouldn't
the
have anybody
half-year
camping there.
Thing, I would do it half of whatever the 690 would be plus the 30. I'd do it.
So it sounds like we got some considerations, guys, before we go to the next board meeting for a vote. So give it some thought. There's obviously other fees that we could target, nominal increases or significant increases that would,
Can we create fees, Jim? I asked Chris that, and she,
Where's that? I don't
like,
understand.
can we create fees? Not to be picking on, dock people. If we're gonna put $30 on the boat slips, every dock out here gets $30 added to it.
I don't know.
I mean,
Every what?
Are you saying a dock tax? Like everybody that's waterfront, you mean?
If you have a dock on the water, you got a boat in your dock, you got a dock on the water. Because I know some of the comments at the meetings here have been that feel like that, you're doubling up on some people and not on other people, so you just do, now you get every dock on the water.
We
pays
just tax
$30.
everybody then?
No, I think what we should do is be.
A marina fee.
I got one of those here, right?
Guys.
I've already got that too.
Tom's got the floor.
I think what we should do is be consistent. For all of those 4 rollouts, we made a statement of what we're going to do. So we made a statement regarding camping, we made a statement regarding both slips and tie-ups, and we made a statement regarding motorized boats. So I think we should be able to be consistent, and with all the numbers Jim worked through with his approximately $59,000 a year, that's what we need. So let's just be consistent and stay with those 3 objects. That would be my opinion.
Yep.
That's what I would agree to do, again, for consistency's sake.
I think, yeah. I mean, our current budget, we're coming about on a gross basis about 100,000 over expenses every year, just like that. I think if we need to assess those things, that might be another place, because we can't get it from assessments. It's not possible. So, we could do the marina for $30 a property if we had an assessment.
Well, maybe the covenants will pass and we'll be able to get there one day.
Yeah.
Grant had an idea 2 months ago about holding off on the fees and seeing where the donations come in and things like that. Along with that, What about a transaction fee at the marina? Everything that goes on in the marina, there's a 10% transaction fee not to exceed a certain amount. Every single fee that goes that Lois or Mike or anybody brings up. And then everybody in the community who's using the marina is
Like
automatically.
Like a tax, you mean, like an additional?
Well, kind of like, around, the donut counties around
Surcharge kind of
Annapolis.
thing.
It could be a surcharge, you could call it a surcharge. You could call it whatever you want to call it, but some people's gonna call it a tax, somebody's gonna call it a surcharge, somebody's gonna call it a screw-in, but it is what it is.
Well, I think, like Tom said, I mean, we stated what the strategy was gonna be. We stated it several times. We're targeting these, and maybe if we have to adjust it, we can revisit some of those other opportunities, but
This is the
I
first time we
think we're
really
gonna-
sat down and talked about it, like.
I understand, but every
Right.
single marina discussion included what these fees were gonna be and when they were gonna be valid.
Right, we probably
So,
should.
we did
I
that
agree. I think
very consistently.
Right,
we-
we should have talked about this maybe a little bit more before, because it seems like there's a lot.
Well, we're not
of
voting
things.
on it today, so we still have an opportunity to discuss it.
That's what I know, that's why I'm trying to discuss it. That's
Well,
all
we
I'm
can't,
saying.
we can't not put the fee for the boat, because you proposed holding it off a year. We can't hold it off a year as a contingency. Because we may not get any fundraising done. But if we get the fundraising, we could
Shorten it.
step back. We could
We
do
could
that.
vote it the next day, and, the next meeting, and say, never mind, we're just gonna do 3
And
years.
we would know who paid the fee if anybody was an early adopter.
I guess really the next meeting, we can vote it back down if we wanted to. Don't think anybody would.
We could do
but-
that at any time. If we end up raising fees that we didn't expect we would get, or we get donations that we didn't expect, then if we get the opportunity and say, okay, well, everything that we needed, we've already got, then there's our opportunity to take them back down if we choose to do that. But the point was already made that this was gonna be the direction that we're gonna go, so, Tom?
Yeah, again, I'll just have to reiterate, we made a statement at these 4 meetings, we made a statement of these 3 fees for 4 years, in terms of if we would get some tremendous contributions or sponsorship, et cetera, all that means is you're gonna be able to rebuild your quote-unquote reserves faster.
That's a very good point.
So let's not go off and make statements that we haven't addressed so far. Let's just go with our current statements.
Thank you.
4 years, 3 fees, bang. I mean, you're going to raise a lot of, I feel, negativity if you start conjuring up these other proposals, plans, propositions. Let's go with what our statements have been.
It's gonna take 8 to 11 years to rebuild our reserves.
If we drop the fees after 4.
Yeah, I'm presuming
Yeah.
that we're dropping fees.
But if we didn't, did you project that out?
No, because I don't think it was, it wasn't tenable to the community.
No, I'm just.
It's not, what you're talking about is, $59,000, let's say for 10 years, that's $590,000. Okay? So, yeah, you're still talking 10 years after the 4 years. I think we should do it,
Yeah.
stick to what we said.
Yep, do what we said.
Let's be
say what we did.
consistent.
Yeah. Okay.
That's my opinion.
So that should go on the next board meeting. New business A. Really good discussion, guys. There's a lot of really good ideas out there. So the next board meeting, we'll be prepared to make a motion.
Is it possible that possibly before the September board meeting, we could have at least, email out to the board members a proposed motion definition?
Yep.
That way,
Got the notes right here. I'll do it.
thank you.
All right.
Yep. Okay, guys, thank you. Next item on the agenda, covenant petition. At this point, we've got about almost 27% lots voted. a long way to go, but a long time to get there, unlike the solid, so. The next thing we need to talk about is when the next mailers go out, where we are with the electronic voting website, and when we want to have our first raffle for those who have voted to this point. So,
Before we jump into that, may I just ask, what is the number of votes? Do you happen to have that?
votes, yeah,
Seven-
790, I think.
Yeah, I think-
790, something like that.
Yeah,
Close to 800. Out of the 2986.
2986, okay.
That's the
the
total
magic-
number of
That's the
lots.
magic number, 2986.
Yep, we would need 1991 yes or 950 no.
No, yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
When did we originally officially send it out?
March 1st,
that's about right.
somewhere in March.
And how long are we going for?
September 20th, so next September.
Okay.
So we got another year. Been in it about 6 months,
Okay,
we got about 12 months to go, so
so
seems like about the right
About the right
opportunity.
time. do it in thirds.
Mhm.
On Friday, I spoke with the Vote HOA, I'll call them the EVO people. And because they sent us communication saying that they had not heard from us. Then I talked with Ruth from, who's their project manager on our case, this morning. And then she sent a email today to Deborah and copied me. And I had a conversation with Deborah just prior to the meeting. I'm confident that Deborah knows exactly what data elements they need and in what form they need them. And Ruth will talk to her on the phone if one of the nuances of Excel is such that they won't be able to extract the data the way they need to put on the petition, which will go to the Putnam County person, recorder. At the, for the affirmation of the vote at the end. And you're gonna speak to Ruth tomorrow?
I'm gonna speak with Ruth tomorrow.
And that should be one of these deals, once that happens.
Sounds
So,
good.
the likelihood of that happening by September 1st, I would say is impossible. So, we probably ought to be looking at the 10th or the 15th. Make sure we can clean, you got all that crap moving around on an Excel, and we're gonna have to be paying real close attention to what we're doing.
Do we have the language, approved language this time? Because wasn't there a discrepancy in the language the first time? Is that why we pulled back on it?
Yeah, that's all been resolved.
But has that been?
It was that
Fixed.
along with what the electronic signature requirements were, what constituted, I believe, identification of that voter being for that lot, right? in
And
electronic-
the other thing was, is that for people who own multiple lots, we presented to HOA, EVO people, a weighting. So if you were a regular property owner, you had a weighting of 1. If you owned 6 properties, you had a weighting of 6. So we would have Tom weighting 6. And the statute says, Tom, Mill Spring this, Lincoln Hills this, Lincoln Hills this, JV this. We have to have all the properties on there. That's okay. But the
Right, but is all that
data was in,
corrected? That's all I wanted to know.
I'm sorry?
Is it been corrected? Have we corrected everything we need to correct, so all Deborah has to do is give them the right info?
Well, I'll let her say that. I looked at her report and it looked to me like it has been, but. Not the
We're
cleanup.
talking to Ruth tomorrow to know exactly what they want. They want no duplicates, so that's been gone through. All the lots have to go on the petition, so it's so many characters per line. So, and there's only one that we're concerned about.
No duplicate lots, right? Because you're gonna have duplicate owners listed because they have multiple lots, right?
They
So
said
what
no
if you-
duplicates.
So what does that
So,
mean?
and, well,
The same
the
owner with the
best-
same lot more than once?
no, the best thing that I can figure in the duplicates was no duplicate email addresses, no duplicate addresses, but they have to understand our membership Jeff has 3 lots. He's on 2 of them, his daughter's on 1. He doesn't have 3 lots, he has two lots, his daughter has 1. And all that mail may go to Jeff's address.
And I got a risk too, if you have duplicate email addresses, that would give them 2 entrances into the voting booth, possibly on the same lot.
Mhm.
And the system is
Yeah.
probably blind to that,
Yeah,
because it's not checking the data element of lot, it's checking data element of that,
Email
yeah.
We don't have a duplicate lot issue, we have a duplicate name, address, email.
This
address.
could be, we're only gonna have 1 email, and she's got, it's manual, unfortunately, some of it is.
So we're just, real close.
what about the electronic?
Work out the fine details.
What about the electronic signature? What's gonna constitute an electronic signature that we have now that we didn't have before that stopped us going forward?
Nothing.
So what are the data elements that identify it as?
I believe that our attorney discovered something after talking to her. Basically, this is what it is. When you send the email, we can prove that that email is to our person because we communicate with them. So we can attest for the, whatever it is, the county. Then when that email goes into the voting booth, it's going to say that this is me, and I'm doing it. And they believe now, according to the Uniform Electronic Signature, something that's a federal law, that this is valid. Which HOA has said from the very beginning, that we just got turned around and
And Putnam County Recorder would have visibility of that, right?
we are going to produce the ballot for them.
Okay. Cool. Okay,
Now, they're gonna get one more shot at us, the attorneys are, but I mean, Chris, I've talked this to death with them.
I know. Well, obviously, I mean, we thought we were ready last time, and then we found a whole bunch of stuff out after the process had already started, so.
Yeah, that was my.
We know that
Well,
That was
now.
the question I was trying to.
Yeah,
didn't-
yeah,
They sent out a draft, they didn't,
yeah. So, when we're ready to pull the trigger and send it out again, is it gonna go through you first, or somebody
Me or
before?
Muhlenbein.
They have to proof it first, we have to proof it first, you or Muhlenbein. Look at the petition that they're gonna send out for everybody else, and make sure that it's got everything that we expect it to have. Exact same wording, or however the key words are, wherever on the petition, they're gonna match whatever the paper petition is.
and our attorneys are gonna sign off on it too.
Okay, good,
Good.
good. That'll be a positive step.
Yeah, so it's,
So it sounds like we got a few weeks of work at least still, right?
I think the big deal is the cleanup.
Okay.
Because we just gotta audit it to make sure we don't, and she may be, Ruth's really good at Excel, and she may be able to do one of those
Yeah,
things and,
yeah, pivot tables and all kinds of stuff, yeah. Okay, so is it your recommendation then, Jim, to hold off on the second round of paper ballots going out until we have a good feel for this, so it all happens at the same time? Because I think round 1, when that electronic website came up, people went crazy. It was like 300 votes we got in like 5 days or something,
right.
right? So if we jump the gun and mail everything out and then wait around like for 2 more weeks and then send the electronic one out, it could cause all kinds of confusion and whatnot, so,
They should go out simultaneously.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think, they need to be,
Together.
cleaved and
Yeah.
started on the same,
Yeah.
the next morning.
How much
'Cause it-
how much prep time does it take to get the paper ballots stuffed, and we're gonna have the raffle flyer in at this time?
4 days, maybe? 3 days?
I wouldn't think it'd take that long.
Not with this, not with the less 800 people that's already
We
voted.
You
could
got
have-
like 22
It's
something.
gonna
We
be
could
a
have the
day.
envelopes stuffed and
Why don't
stamped
you,
in a
can you
day.
give me and we got fax, and we got FAQ.
FAQ,
And we got
petition,
the-
the covenants, and the raffle, so 4.
Just need to make sure that the attorneys see those again, even though they saw them the
Yep.
first time.
Yep. Nothing should have changed in 3 of those. The only difference is we're putting the raffle flyer in there, but we've already electronically communicated it
There's one other thing I'm gonna run by them on it. The idea is that with each iteration of the vote mail out, we're gonna turn up the heat in terms of urgency. And that language is gonna be different, so we need them to vote.
On the communications, not
Yes.
on what they're getting in their packet. right?
We
You can't
need them to
change the
vote,
content.
and I wanna say that we need them to vote.
There's another fee opportunity, vote by X day. Just kidding.
So, there you
Like,
go.
I'm just kidding, it was a joke, it was a bad one, but,
But that's something we haven't done before.
yeah.
We've said it in things that on social media and answering people, but we've never said that in this forum, so.
Yeah, we have to make sure with the lawyers and whatever.
Yeah.
if we Put any different wording in than what we've previously used, that they're cool with it. We've done a lot of work, I think, for this first 6 months, for sure, things that we haven't done much before, being at the marina, being at all the events, the vote table with Jim Muhlenbein and Deb Muhlenbein. They've been really relentless and had a lot of energy to try to help support it. We've gotten a couple hundred votes, I think, just from the vote table and the opportunities that we've been out in the community, so it's important. So I appreciate the guys on the board that have helped support that. It's gonna be a continued effort for sure for the next several months or year, actually. Last thing we want to talk about is the raffle. When do we want to have the raffle? Now,
Are we only having one?
we're having 3 raffles, 3
Okay.
separate raffles, roughly around the same time as the end of each voting period. Well, the voting period goes through next September, but each mailer period, we're trying to kind of coordinate that. So everybody that's voted from March till whatever date we designate to do the raffle, that group will have the opportunity to get the first round of raffle prizes. And then from that point to whenever the next round of mailers goes out, we would do the next raffle. So we'll have 3 separate ones.
Waited to vote then is what you're saying.
Huh?
I should have waited to vote then is what you're saying.
No,
Why?
you've only got like,
You're just in a different universe.
it's a pretty low percentage right now. Hopefully your
Now, are all the
odds
people in
go up.
this one, will they be rolled into the next?
I don't believe so. What we've said before is everybody, each voting cycle gets 1 raffle. So if you vote now, then you're in this raffle. If you vote the next round, you'll get the next round raffle. And we got like 30% back, so,
You're not gonna see 300 and some odd emails. Because a lot of us have voted when those votes were illegitimized, so.
Yep.
So, 150 maybe?
Maybe that's 150,
Yeah.
closer to the finish line.
that's right, it is. So, what are you guys' thoughts? When do you want to do the first raffle? Do we want to wait for the information to come back from e-vote people so we have a good idea of where we are?
October.
Or do we want to do it
When
in the
is-
September board meeting? Or?
October board meeting, is my vote. That's the next round of mailers.
When is
go out.
the September meeting?
September 11th? Because I screwed it up, remember?
Yeah.
Tell me how I was wrong.
You could do it at the October board meeting and say, look at this person just won, we just sent you everything.
September
go
9th.
vote.
September 9th,
September 9th. We should have a good answer by then. Do we plan on doing the raffle on September 9th, Jim? Or the amount between the paper mailers and
We gotta be sure that we're ready, but, yeah.
I think you have to wait until the second goes out, because when the second goes out, that signifies that the first is done.
correct.
So therefore, wait until the second goes out, and you could, the day after the second goes out, or the week after the second goes out, have your raffle.
so it sounds like October board meeting would pretty much be guaranteed. September's really if we-
That would be the safest.
Is that where you're gonna have the raffle, at the board meeting?
Mhm.
Yeah, we get to tell
And it
them.
has to be
Well,
October.
You're good
it'll
at
be
the drawing.
televised, we'll publicize the heck out of it.
It has to be October.
How many people will win, I guess,
There's
per round?
5, right?
five separate cash prize, well, gift card prizes,
Okay.
cash.
What if one of us?
250,
Get
200,
nothing.
100, and 250s.
Okay.
That's the point you just.
And I've
Wouldn't it be
sent that
great?
out
We
several
donated.
times.
Wouldn't it be
Yeah,
great
it's
if
been
one of
around
us
for
won?
That'd be awesome.
You think you wouldn't see things light up?
And the winner of the championship, Paul Forbes.
Be October 14th.
And Paul Ford's one again, wait a second.
So
As a matter of fact, I didn't get two.
October 14th is a,
Yeah.
And to be clear, guys,
Just Columbus.
anybody who's cast a petition, vote, ballot, whatever you wanna call it, one person per entry. You don't, because you have 5 lots, you don't count as 5 entries, right, so. go
Am
ahead.
I mistaken, but I thought the statement was made that board members are not
That's
eligible for
correct.
this raffle?
That's correct.
Okay, so,
We're just making a joke.
oh, okay.
Funny, haha. You should have laughed.
No jokes. The
I
jokes.
did.
Just trying to generate interest for the community, huh?
I laugh inside.
You'll generate more than interest if you keep up that train.
That's right.
Well, gotta get interest one way.
Okay, so we're gonna
Every
target
press is good press.
October 14th board meeting for the raffle. We'll keep up to date with the electronic status with Jim and Deborah over the next couple weeks. And then we'll know whether we have lawyer confirmation that our manual packet, the mailer packet is good to go. If you guys need any help with any of that, just let me know.
Deborah, do you have the originals or the docs that we use to produce all those copies?
Yes.
Okay, I'll send you an email tomorrow and just tell you what files I need, or what docs I need, and I'm gonna send them to the attorney and redo it. Just make them sign all this.
Yeah.
You know, so that'd be the facts, the FAQs, the actual the petition, the restated covenants, and what else? Is there anything else?
The raffle.
FAQs?
And then the new
Raffle
raffle.
flyer. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion on that, guys? All right. Next item, 2020 board petitions. So, the end of the term for myself and Paul and Ken Riggin, who resigned from the board before his term, his term limit was reached. So there's gonna be 3 open board positions to fill for the 2020 board. Anybody who's interested is obviously able to pick up their petition from the office. We'll talk about that at the next board meeting as well. They have to be submitted back to the office with 25 membership signatures by the end of October. My only question to the board is, we think 3 more members is enough, not 3 more, but assuming we'll have 1 additional member, if we have 3 to fill what we had lost for this year. Thoughts?
I don't understand your question.
I know, I didn't say it very well, did I? So,
take your dum-dums out.
that's my dum-dums, I was fine till this. So, the end of 3 terms, Ken Riggins, Paul, and myself. So Paul and I, if we choose to run again, we would be running for those seats that we currently hold. So the question is, do we want 1 more additional member to the current board? Is that enough?
Or do we want
Do we
more?
have- Yeah, we can have up to, I think,
18.
12 or 18, yeah,
18.
something ridiculous. Or, I mean, 9 seems like a good number because it's an odd number and that helps with votes and whatnot.
We should have an odd number in one way or
I
another.
think 9 is enough personalities, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think we want any more than that, that's for sure.
It's just like you said.
So, yeah.
How
So,
is that determined?
what's that?
I'm not sure I know how that is determined. Does the board now vote on the number of people they want?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, it's our authority to
Okay.
decide how many board members are gonna be seated for the next board.
And that has to be voted on, probably at the next board
I
meeting?
would think so.
Yeah, yeah, we will vote on it, so the next
So the
board meeting.
discussion is, does anybody not want, does anybody want more than 9?
9 is plenty.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think 9 is more than enough. I don't think we wanna entertain.
I agree.
I mean, if we had 25 people in every election, like,
Yeah,
if there was
if
like
we-
like an outpouring.
There's not a whole lot of interest.
If there was an outpouring of people that wanted to be berated on Facebook and everything else for free, then maybe I would say, okay, great, yeah, let's run it up to 11 or something like that, but we have a hard time getting the
Yeah.
seats filled we got.
And keeping them filled.
I just don't want it to always be like, well, you got 3 open seats on the board, you got 3 open seats on the board every year. It's like,
Yeah.
let's look full. Full looks better than.
If we do have a whole bunch of people, do we come back to this and revote?
No.
Sure. Well, I don't know if see, we can't discuss it, right? Or
You
no,
have
we
20
can't.
people running
Not for 2020,
for all those positions, that'll be fine.
because they only have till the end of October to get their petition.
Look at the Democrats.
Right. But we don't vote them in until February, right?
I guess that's true.
So,
Let's make this weird than whatever.
so that's where we are. So it sounds like we want to keep a 9-member board.
Yeah.
That makes the most sense. We don't want any more. Hopefully we won't have any less. And start communicating that soon, so the membership who's interested can start picking up their petitions and getting them signed.
It's gonna be interesting to see how many people run for the board this year, because there were a lot of interested people.
There's a lot of interesting things going on between the marina and the
Mhm.
covenants. The talk of a potential restaurant in the future, I think there's gonna be people that wanna get involved but maybe haven't wanted to before, or they'll put their money where their mouth is, or they won't, and
That's
sometimes
good.
they won't. So, yeah, that's good. I mean, the more interest we have, the more people willing to step up and take their turn and help support our community. That's awesome. That's what we want. So, just a heads up, that's all coming down the road here. So nothing on the board agenda. We'll just go forward with the standard communications.
Should we like make an announcement about it?
Oh, well, yeah, for sure. So
Petition-
we'll be doing that.
Petitions already.
Petitions already.
There you go.
I think we usually start those communications around September-ish anyway, right? So they have all the way through the end of October.
Yeah, but it's nice to get it out there.
Yep. We'll start talking about it. We've already talked about it publicly now.
So would that be a new business B as an
Yep.
announcement?
Yeah, just an announcement, yeah. Thank you. Okay, last item on the agenda, 30-acre gate update and leaf drop-off. Ken Roselle.
Okay, just the 30-acre gate location is scheduled for September 9th for Hendricks Power to install their electric. And then TJ Fencing is planning on coming out sometime that week to do the electronic work on the opening and closing of the gate. So that's kind of where it stands. I spoke with Hendricks Power a couple times and they're on board with the 9th. As far as the leaf drop-off, you know, I brought this up at the last board meeting for some ideas. I don't know if anybody has any ideas or thoughts, but it was something that I've thought about that would work, unless somebody's got a better idea. If I could kind of help explain our current schedule for the maintenance guys that work on a rotation doing the beach and the trash run on the weekends. We usually allot them 4 hours for Saturday and 4 hours Sunday. And the weekend prior, or the Monday prior to them doing it that weekend, they're off on Monday, so they have a 3-day weekend, knowing that when they go into that following week, that they work Saturday and Sunday for 4 hours. Now, this would not generate any extra payroll, so we would continue with that same schedule. Instead of doing the beaches, they go in to monitor the operation of the gate, and I'm thinking of the hours of like 10 to 2. We advertise that for the next 6 weeks, or, you know, obviously it's all weather permitted. But for the next 6 weeks, starting in October, we start opening the gate from 10 to 2.
For leaves.
For leaves only.
They're gonna check the loads.
Yeah, you know, I kind of briefly talked with Sean and one of the other maintenance guys this morning about it, and obviously, when people rake, you know, they're gonna have to do their best to justify what's a twig, because when they're raking leaves, there's gonna be little twigs in it. You know, we're talking twigs the size of your finger. You know, when they justify a branch and they're going to pull it out, they're either cooperate or they will get turned down. That was the only idea that I thought of, with the exception of you know, if 10 to 2 is not long enough. I think, you know, when we have the cleanup days, we have it for 4 hours, I think. It's kind of a parade. I mean, people know that that's the time. If they know for the next
You're talking 10 to 2 on Saturday and Sunday?
Saturday and Sunday.
I thought Tom had volunteered.
For a shift, yeah.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, as long as, I think that as long as there is no extra payroll, I guess my question is, it sounds like they wouldn't be, they are doing currently, you know, 2 types of activities on that Saturday and Sunday, and you're suggesting for 6 weeks, starting in October, those 2 activities are not needed?
Correct. They're not gonna be, I mean,
So, I mean, I don't mean to lay off anybody, but, you know, if they're not needed, why do we have it?
well, they take off on Mondays. I mean, there's always mowing, and that's what we've done, that's what we do all summer long. So, I mean, there's always God's plenty to do.
Oh, I see what you're saying. He's saying that if you don't need them to do those activities for those 6 weeks, why are they not working on Monday and just having their every weekend off? Like, why are we changing their schedule? Or do they have Monday off
We do that all summer long. That's the
all
regular.
year?
No,
All-
it's summer.
Just summer.
Yeah, just summer. So basically, we're taking that schedule we run all summer and just extending it for 6 weeks.
Gotcha.
And it's the same number of hours,
So-
it's just split into
No, I
2 half
understand that.
days instead of 1 full day, so.
Yeah, I get paid by the hour, I get that. I'm just saying that, I think, what Tom was saying, if I understand it, was that we're extending this, normally it would be done in September, they wouldn't work weekends after September. per se.
Correct.
So you're just extending that service for this specific need. You're not taking them
That
away
works
from
in-
combing the beach when they would
Well,
normally.
they would, you know, the beach time is gonna really trickle down, and what we talked about was really doing the beach on a Friday, and just letting it roll through the weekend.
I think Tom was asking, and don't put words in your mouth, if that work doesn't need to be done, why do we have employee hours being billed at all on those hours? That's all. I'm not agreeing with that, I'm saying, I think that's what you were actually saying.
Correct.
If,
It's the same number of hours, except they're off on Monday.
No, but
I
he's
guess
saying
another way of saying it, not to lay off anybody or cut work short, but we'd be able to save 6 weeks worth of hours.
No, then they'd have to work Monday.
they would work
okay.
Monday and they would be just on mowers and doing everything else that people tear up around here and,
So it's a wash.
Yes.
yeah,
And your maintenance guys are okay with this? If
Well-
they're not, I'd be, again,
Tom's gonna go out, he's gonna volunteer again.
I'm gonna be out there anyways, you know, so
I'm in
I might as well be productive.
you know, and we even
Listen,
had
if you're
it,
gonna be out there anyway, would you stop at my house and take my truck full of leaves?
On your way there.
Can you rate mine too?
Absolutely, for a fee, I'd be more than happy to do it.
Wait,
Depends on the fee.
A fee.
We charge everybody dumping leaves for the marina too then?
Yeah, I think we should stress leaves only. I understand there's going to be some branches, but again, we have to keep it to whatever the diameter of your baby finger is.
And length,
His finger.
And because
and length.
we're gonna be paying for those,
Cubic.
They're using
we're gonna be paying for that brush to be shredded again, another $3,000-4,000. And I'm sure Jim doesn't wanna spend $3,000-4,000 next year for branch shredding. Or do you, Jim?
No.
well, that was, I've thought a lot about it, you know, I just know that the community is going to need a place to dump their leaves.
Absolutely.
If that idea isn't, I mean, at the end of the day, I think
think
it's
it's a great
probably
idea.
my idea, my choice anyway, but, if you guys have a better solution, then
I
bring
think,
it on.
no, I
Let's-
think
let's
it's an
go for it,
excellent
see how it
idea. All
works.
I'm saying is, if any of the maintenance people don't feel that it's appropriate for them, you know, I'd be more than happy to step up. And I'm sure Paul would be too.
Well, they've
Don't be
done,
so sure, Tom.
they've done it, I mean, they've done it all summer long, so I don't know why it's gonna be a big issue, but I think I've got cooperative guys that, I even said this morning that if one of them wants to take the next 5 Mondays off and have a 3-day weekend and 1 week and then roll into a 3-day weekend, then if one person wants to do it, I'm fine. My goal was to allow a place for them to dump their leaves and it not cost any more money.
And they also, in whatever flyer you put together, that would be in the highlights, I assume, as long as we tell the people that they're gonna be taking their plastic bags back with them.
Sure.
That we're
You
gonna
know,
be-
and that's part of the education that I'll, have to work with the maintenance guys, but, they're smart enough to, figure all that out. I mean, they, they'll have, if they don't, follow what's laid out, then they can clean it up, so.
So we're looking at October 1st for the,
You know,
whatever the first weekend of October.
We kind of bounce that off and, who knows when the leaves are gonna really start dropping. I know they're falling now, but I think right now they're manageable to mulch, to bag if you want and throw it out to the trash, but when they really start falling, I'm just guessing first part of October. They could easily start to be falling and could easily go into.
First couple weeks of November.
They could, I
Yeah.
mean,
And depends on also
Yeah.
if somebody wants to let them all fall and do them all in one
Yeah.
shot, or if they're gonna do little trips, so.
and that way if they know that, everybody knows that it's that week, they can bag them through the week. They can just, at least they know that
Then
they've
they
got
know
a
they can
place to
have-
take them on the weekend at a
Yeah.
set time.
I think that's a great idea,
I think
since
it's-
we've had it closed,
Yeah,
I think this is
it's a really good idea,
great
Ken.
suggestion, good job.
Yep. Okay, that sounds like a plan.
Problem solved.
Okay,
Look at that
we'll
guy.
do that.
All right. Any other things you guys want to talk about? Closes the agenda. If not, go ahead, Tom.
Just one question, I don't know, from our previous board meeting, I was wondering if the gentleman who stood up and said he was going to
Yeah, the website.
do a webpage redesign, has he given you anything? So he has
I've
not
not
even
heard from
sent,
him.
he has not, you've not heard from me, he's not
Correct.
sent you any links of previous work they've done, et cetera?
Nothing, I've not heard from him.
What I'd like to add to the board meeting, if you would, is next, a discussion on this lake patrol that I've sent everybody on the board. I forgot to include Ken, but I'll put the information. I'd like to talk about lake patrol. That's the concept where we get volunteers, non-paid, to, as Ken suggested, at least start out going in the same boat as the security officers. As a
That was
separate-
what I suggested,
Well,
versus
it's-
putting them in their own boat.
Sure, start out at least, I've gotten more, the board has gotten more information. I contacted the community manager, I guess his title is, out at Hidden Valley, and got information on their setup. And, I even enclosed their rule books and also their fee schedule regarding their fine schedule, what they fine people for. And basically, the only thing I didn't include, and we could add it, we could discuss it, what they do have is they have what they phrase as a judicial panel. So if a citation is issued to somebody on the water, that citation in effect goes back to their judicial panel, and the judicial panel determines the validity of the citation and also the value of the fine that's imposed. So that's the only thing I did not talk about.
They have paid security at Hidden Valley?
Absolutely, yes. And it is not, I think at the last board meeting, or the last time we discussed it, it was somewhat inferred that these are on-duty deputies. They are reserve deputies off-duty. So it's similar to what we do here, we pay an off-duty deputy to do our security. Same thing they do. They pay an off-duty deputy to man their, if you want to call it, gatehouse. But in terms of Lake Patrol is all volunteers, as my notes indicated.
Oh, so the deputies aren't on the water.
Absolutely not.
And they don't have any issues with those
Absolutely not.
volunteer lake patrols?
They've only had,
Being
this year,
used?
I think my notes indicated this year, they've only had 8 citations issued for their lake so far. So people, for whatever reason, people at Hidden Valley are
Well, better be.
Is it alcohol-free, Lake?
no, as a matter of fact, it's not alcohol-free because their restaurant, as you know, not that you participated, but as you know, does serve alcohol. They have an alcohol license. Their restaurant does, so.
Well, I've stated before that I've worked, for whatever reason, I've worked 2 other lakes, and they don't come close to how people act on this lake. And and it should tell you something when you got a DNR officer that's got 1 boat that works Cataract and Raccoon. That should tell you that if they acted on those 2 lakes like people act out here, they would have a full-time DNR guy on each lake.
That's why I think, Ken, I think, and Jim indicated that our legal advice came back and indicated we're not allowed to issue fines. I guess I would like to know why not. I think someone referred back to, okay, what legal precedence is this being said, as opposed to Hidden Valley Lake, which is in Indiana, so they'd be under the same state statute as we're under, if it's a state statute, why they can do it and we can't.
I think, Jim, I don't know if you talked to the lawyer and asked about that, but I seem to recall that the answer was, once you open up that can of worms, then people will think that all they're gonna do is just take us to court to fight the fines. I think that was part of the rationale that was advised by Tanner.
I did have a conversation with Tanner about it one time, and but this was more, and I would think it would fall under the same government, but we were discussing fines on the road. They owned their own roads, they wrote all their citations, their speeding, their failure to stop. They received a ticket, but it was paid at the office, and it was a user fee.
Can we maybe revisit that with does anyone talk to the attorneys on
I
a regular
have
basis?
talked to Tanner shortly after that visit, and he emphatically said, he kept telling me no.
But I'm saying, isn't he no longer our attorney?
His firm is-
Well, on my conversation with him, I intend to bring it up just very quickly, because every time I talk to him, we get billed.
Right.
So everybody knows, but I don't, we deny people access to property here if they sin. And money is property. So I don't
see the difference.
Yeah,
If I paid for my boat sticker and then you don't let me use it, that's like fining me.
yeah,
To your point, it's, if I pay my $310 for my boat sticker next year, and then you tell me I have to take it off the water because I did something wrong, that's working against
It's
the
a
money I
forfeiture.
spent.
And it's-
It's a forfeiture of what you,
It is, but it's a lot easier to sneak your boat back on the water undetected than it is to not pay a fine and know you're being tracked on whether you paid that fine or not, right? I mean, security's not out there 24/7. People know, just,
we could put on the
That's what I
website.
think.
I mean, locks keep
a wall
honest
of
people
shame.
honest.
You know, the
Yeah.
people who are banned from the lake, and put that baby on the website, people be tattling.
well,
Put a Facebook
you're
post
right,
up
Jim, they currently do that in China. They currently do it in China. They record all those things and they do list them.
But they don't keep them off the lake, they kill them.
Oh, no,
That would be an extreme
they just-
penalty here.
They just blacklist.
That's your third time.
I think, to Ken's point, to me, that would be additional teeth You know, when you're actually taking $50, $100 from a person, you know,
Or at least a pretense of it that we're
Yeah.
gonna do something.
well.
Yeah.
Make it further down the list of the banishment penalty or something. Is there, the only reason I was asking was because you said before, Tanner had said no, 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 no. I feel like we've gone back to his law firm since and things have changed since he's no longer there with us.
Well, I guess that, you know, we would have to decide, is it worth, as Jim points out, the financial cost?
Oh, this isn't a hard one. That'll be a 15-minute Billy.
That would be, I would think it'd be worth 15 minutes, basically saying, okay, here's Hidden Valley Lake. Tell me why this Indiana organization can do it.
Are they private?
They're the
they're
same as we
huge.
are,
Same structure?
yes.
I don't know
Well,
if there's
structures,
sure.
governance structure, you know, their covenants probably have additional words in it, you know, phrases in it than ours do.
Ooh, covenant.
Uh,
Ooh.
That's how they're structured,
I
right?
think we do it in bylaw.
Pardon me?
I
They
would
have
hope
that
we could
too.
do this in bylaws.
But again, their bylaws and their covenants, they're right online, you know, so I could send out the link and anybody who's more legally intent than I am could review it and see if they could
Send it
find.
to Curtis.
But I just think it's a good idea. I think it's something we should look into.
Good point.
And if the
Got it.
suggestion is if it's
You send
15
it.
minutes,
Send that link to me.
I will send a link for the covenant, for the bylaws, covenants, whatever they call them.
So you got that for new business, Sue?
Yeah, if we could bring up Lake Patrol, I was long-winded, but that's what I really want to do. And the only reason I want to do it at the next board meeting, because I will have a chance to introduce it to the Lake Committee on Wednesday. You know, Lake Committee,
You're going to the meeting this week?
yes, Lake Committee will have,
Could you have one more thing on the agenda? Maybe promulgation of a rule that says that any boat that comes into Heritage Lake, if they have live wells, they gotta be inspected, see if there's water in them, and if they got a bilge. Because we have to keep this stuff from coming into our lake, from these other lakes.
We did this in Maine, actually, in my hometown. We actually put in a boat wash station, like a hose and the whole deal, and it was out there, and people, prior to going in, they're supposed to, they don't always, but as they pulled up, we could run it out of the new marina right to where the side of the ramp is, and they could run the hose out, and they could at least hose off the trailer, hose off the boat real quick before it goes in the lake to help, and obviously if there's like weeds and stuff hanging off of it, but,
yeah, because weed hides snails.
or just anything, whatever you got,
Those
just
snails are so smart.
crafty. They're not fast, but they're crafty.
I will bring that topic up to see if because right now, they are looking at a reformatted rules book.
Yeah.
Not content changed, but just the format of the layout to make it clearer or easier for an individual. Again, the individual has to look at the book, but make it easier for them to find out a particular guideline for a particular issue.
Like the Big Ten or something like that, big bad violations or things that you need to
That
know.
also.
You know, I have an idea of how we could get everybody to read the rule book.
Uh-oh.
Take a test when you get your permit. You
I-
flunk the test, you don't get the permit.
I tried that 2 years ago.
You did?
It didn't work.
Well, why did it not work? You flunked the test?
No,
No, he tried, he proposed it.
No, we didn't wanna put that on Lois and anybody else who was working in the marina to have to
Okay.
police the test for all those people.
Okay.
that was part of the reason. The other reason was people, the board at that particular time did not believe that, you know, to encumber the boat owner to take a test like that. And, you know, then the question always came out, you know, how many questions, is 10 too much? I only wanted 5, and I wanted the answers on the back of the test, you know, just to get
That's
people.
what I'm saying, who cares?
Well,
open
maybe,
book test, at least you read the rules.
maybe we should
Yeah, I like it.
resurrect that.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with that.
Hey, AJ, one thing on the boat wash station at your lake,
Mhm.
surely they didn't do it
Right by the.
on the
Okay,
ramp
it's not on the ramp.
and
I
then
was
wash
just-
it right down into the lake?
No, I mean, it's across the street of where I'm at.
Okay,
They actually, I work for, there's an organization there called the Lakes Environmental Association, which is non-for-profit. It has nothing to do with any one particular lake. It's just in the area of all the lakes. And they go around and do water testing and soil testing and things like that, just to check the health of the lakes. But they got grant money to put this in, and it's on like crush number 8 stone, and it's away from the lake.
yeah, so it's going down in the soil and not gonna road out to the water.
I mean, it's literally across the street. I mean, there's a paved road between, I mean, it's a good ways. And there's just a drive-through, you just pull around, you pull through, you hose your boat off. The hose is like a, you know, those like PVC locks that go around like
Yeah.
the thing so people can't steal the hose. And it's got a little nozzle end on it, and people use it. And not everybody uses it, but people use it. And I've seen like brushes, like a brush just sitting on the ground, but you know, you can leave a brush out there or something like that people could use to brush off their trailer. And it says, there's a big sign, please wash your boat, please make sure you wash the anchor lines and, you know, any live wells, things like that, because they're trying to stop weeds, different weeds and algae from being transferred to other lakes.
I think it would take, now that we're revamping these rules, not revamping, but itemizing them, if you will, in importance. I think if somebody were to go get a permit and had to read to whoever's giving the permit the 5 most important safety things before they got the permit, at least we know they're reading it. They don't have to take a test, just read it to Lois or read it to somebody at the marina. Just read it. Okay, yeah, gotta go counterclockwise, gotta, you know, it might sound stupid, but at least they get it. How many people out here don't read the rules?
Like an eye test, read the chart.
Exactly. So that's my thought. I mean, a test, but at least if they read it out loud when they got their permit.
Sorry I brought that all up, Chris.
It's all right. Any other business, guys?
So we're here.
I make a motion. We adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Thanks, guys. I don't have anything for executive. Does anybody know anything you need to talk about?
You're all aware of the
Deb, can I have
people that
this?
came to the executive meeting
You need this, okay.
last
Yeah.
time? You're all aware of the outcome?
No.
The,
We're not on the,
the,
Gotta go back. 2
Oh,
minutes, guys.
oh, yeah, that's a
I
little.
should tell you
I can do that
that.
as stand up, we can do this as stand up.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm curious on that, 'cause I drove by on the lakeside to look at it.
it's good insight for discussion. Right.
So sour. No, friends, we should do it.